how to take your energy work deep. Hello, I'm Fractal Future and welcome to the Vanguard of Light, where we help spiritual people take it to the next level, more of a transcending and quantum jump. So we're talking about how to take energy work deep, because we all kind of come in, we're like, I want to go deep, I want to get after it, but that might not energetically match the truth. But it's about changing that truth, changing what currently is into something new. And one of the ways of how we kind of think of yeah, I just want a massive change. But the thing is that it's like we want a massive change of the outside, the external reality, while our internal is kind of the same. Like the who you think who you are kind of wants to stay the same while the outside stuff changes. But even the change in the outside. So let's, just a little example. This is something I did a couple days ago, is just choose for a day to not eat anything you've eaten before. Not drink anything you drank before. So if you got your daily routine with coffee, you're not doing coffee. You're doing something else. You're doing something else that you haven't done before. And you'll start bumping up of oh, wait, I really like it that way. Oh, I really like this thing. Or I really like that thing. But there could be something that you like much, much more, but you don't know it because you haven't introduced it yet. And it's just a good way to experience that. Experience oh, wait a second. Maybe there are some more energetic blocks I didn't realize, or resistance to that type of change. Just by doing it one day of I will eat something completely different, everything is going to be completely different. And you'll feel that resistance, but it also gives you some of that vibrational flexibility to where you're actually going in the process of doing that, of confronting, of hey, this is something new. So taking the energy work deep, one, you really need to have something that's going to dig into your unconscious, have your unconscious start reprogramming your unconscious mind, which we have the tools, have the link. A lot of the videos have that, but there's stuff to come before that. And what comes before that is kind of two beliefs. One of the core beliefs, or one of the core fears, is you kind of got your core issues, right? And they're kind of underneath. You don't super feel them, but you do. You feel those insecurities, you feel those fears. Part of that is the fears that are deep, and there's also a malevolent voice or a component of that voice in your head that's always telling you, oh, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. There's a malevolent part of that. I mean, there's a fear that's built in there of your part of you, a small part of you. Then there's a conformity, but there is a malevolence there that's it never lets it get better. So just knowing that that's there is okay, that's something that will be addressed. But we have this underlying kind of core issues, but not realizing underneath those core issues is no issue. It's the being a light that we come from. But there's that inherent fear of there's something wrong with me, and I don't want to dig too deep because I don't want to, have to confront that of oh yeah, there's something inherently wrong with me. There's something inherently broken. We get that feeling when we're moving through of there's something wrong, right? And we don't want to necessarily dig too deep and fully discover that of yeah, I'm permanently broken. Luckily, let you know that is 100% not true. Part of that is that malevolent voice lying to you. Part of it is wounds, core fears, stuff we're taking on from other people, but underlyingly, it's not true. And I want to hopefully with these videos to help build that belief of we're gonna pierce through those core fears, those core issues, but underneath, there is no issue. We're beings of light. Really come back to that. When you get that thought in of oh, I'm scared, realize underneath that is a being of light. You got no issues. There is no inherent flaw with you. There is no inherent wrongness. I get feeling that. I felt that a lot, but realizing that there isn't. Dig down deep enough, you're gonna get to your purity, your joy, your amazingness. It's there in everyone. We're beings of light. There is no doubt to that. I have zero doubt in my mind about that. Do I experience doubt? Yes. But underlyingly, you dig down, you're going to get to that place where you realize of whoa, wait a second. I have glimpses of that, of wow, there's that level of purity. There's that level of amazingness that that has to be the deep down core, because all the other stuff is just a covering. So kind of hopefully give you a little bit of that. That's the one gate to go through. When you're going to go down deep, and you're really going to get into that energy work, is having that belief of anything that comes up of that inherent flaw and stuff like that, that's just a lie. and really get to your mind of like, okay, that's a lie. I'm going in the right direction because I'm bumping up against that inherent flaw stuff, but that's a lie. And that's what I'm transcending. That's where my quantum jump's gonna come from. And like kind of keep building that up of like, when you touch it, you come back of like, nah, I'm a being of light. That is one of the lies. That's one of the big lies that you're gonna confront. But going into it of like, you're gonna bump up against that. And it's a big lie. And you hold that in your heart of like, that's a big lie. Because otherwise it's gonna be really hard to go deep, because we're always gonna wanna get a little bit, like hopefully do enough energy work to get out of our current pain, but not too much to where we get down to that big, horrible mega pain, right? But realizing like that mega pain's a lie. And if you can get there and confront it and be like, oh, whoa, wait a second. Because it's like, don't look. But when you actually look, you'd be like, wait a second, that's a lie. Then you start letting that go. And that's when you start having really big quantum changes in your life. When you realize you can start coming from a place of like, I am a being of light, not, I'm kind of worried there's inherent flaws. I'm kind of worried there's something inherently wrong with me. So I want to dig enough to get out of pain, but not too much to find out that I'm really, messed up. And I was like, you don't want to go that deep, but realize that's the big lie. And we, you have that belief, you come in it like, that's going to show up. I want you to have that in your mind of like, yep, that's something inherently flawed. That's going to show up when it's starting to get you and it starts feeling it's overwhelming. You're feeling that feel. You just got to keep coming back. Like, that's the big lie. I'm getting close. I'm getting close to piercing that. That's the big lie. And then each time you go deeper in your energy work and coming back to it, knowing that that might be there, but that's an inherent lie. Just keep coming back, like in the good times of reinforcing that, like, hey, I'm a being of light. It might not feel like that. I might not be expressing that, but deep down there in that core, that's the truth. And when you start bumping up against that inherent flaw, that's the lie. And that's it's kind of the gate you got to go through. Part of it is just the acceptance of that, like, okay, I got that feeling there, but it's not true. And then that's part of what can be transcended, because there's no emotion that you can't change, especially any negative emotion. There's no negative emotion that you can't get to the core and change that. Probably the one you wouldn't be able to change would be like that super bliss, super love. But guess what? You're not going to want to change that one. So that's fine, because that's more of the truth of it. When you get down to the core of what you came in as, that's the one that probably won't change, because it's kind of like the only way you can change that is kind of cover it with a lie. But it's going to want to bubble up. It's going to want to bubble out. But all that other stuff, that's a lie. And it's really coming in and like, okay, that's a lie. Does that gonna make it? It's just, everything's rosy and easy. And like when you go do core deep spiritual work, that all of a sudden it's just gonna be easy, fine. And if it's not easy, fine, you're going the wrong direction. No, that's why I want to bring it up. Is like, most likely you're going in the right direction. So if it does get hard, if it does get difficult, if you do get those kind of things coming up of like, I'm inherently flawed, I'm inherently not worthy, that you're actually on the right path, right? And have allowance for those feelings. And you don't need to stay in there and be traumatized and be horrible, right? But no, that's gonna come up. That's gonna be part of the process. You can dig in a little bit, maybe pull back a little, dig in a little bit. That's why I got the vibration shift stuff that really goes deep, lets you go really, really deep. But knowing that that's gonna come up, like it's gonna confront that. And that's like, you just gotta understand, like, if you're gonna play at that deeper level, that kind of stuff's gonna come up. It doesn't have to overwhelm you. It doesn't have to be horrible, but it's gonna be a challenge, and that's gonna and that's not an example of like, oh, if I'm not experiencing love and bliss only, then I'm going the wrong direction. I just realized like, well, I'm gonna go through that, especially if it's something you've inherently felt, for a long time, knowing that you're gonna unravel that and you're gonna confront that, you're gonna confront and be like, oh, that feels really bad, but I'm gonna choose the truth. I'm gonna choose the light. I'm gonna choose to keep seeing, and then start dispelling that lie, as opposed to just covering it up to where you don't feel it too much. But gotta think law of attraction. Your hand beingness. If you got a big lie that you're sitting everything on top of, it interferes with your creation. And it really interferes with what you can create, because once you start creating something that's a radical difference to what that lie is telling you, the lie is going to come up. The lie is going to come out and be like, hey, whoa. I've got a lie that's directing us this way and you want to go that way. And that's why you can see a lot of law of attraction doesn't work, because if you're going to this magical, new, wondrous life that's in not congruent with that, negative, overlayer, you're going to have those pools. And eventually that negative overlayer is going to start, getting uncovered, saying like, hey, wait about me. This is where we're going, and it's about digging deep into that and being like, no, that's a lie. And you remove that lie, you remove that big core base lies. Now all of a sudden, what you can create really becomes magical. So I just want to bring that up of like knowing, like going into, that you might bump up against that. You maybe have it so squished down that you didn't even know it's there, right? But when you start digging in, you start getting these big, like, inherent flaws, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna do this anymore because I don't want, these inherent flaws, and I don't like how it felt, and but knowing that's just a big lie that's been running underneath there. And it is about getting into those big lies and like getting that you get to choose. And it's not so much like, here's these 10 different things you got to go through, they're all going to be horrible, and then at the end you might get to this light of like, no, even those gates are part of a signpost of like, oh, this feels horrible. It's like, okay, that can also be transformed, and it's not just to stop. I'm like, oh, well, that feels uncomfortable, so let me go someplace that's comfortable. It's like, no, okay, that's uncomfortable, let's change that uncomfort as well, while we're going towards like where we've been called to go, how we've been called to serve. Some of those gates are also being like getting to choose of like, okay, it feels crummy, right? But I'm going to choose to work on that crummy until it stops feeling crummy, until it no longer stops me or no longer is a big issue. You can feel it. You don't want to have it where we're suppressing the feelings of like, I just, get so callous that I can just charge through stuff. Like, you want to be able to feel it, but not have it hang around per se. You feel it and be like, oh, that feels bad for my 2 minutes. But now that it has ended, I'm not going to carry it for the next day, next week, next month, or operate my life from like, ooh, that was a real painful thing. I don't ever want it to happen again. Be like, okay, that was painful, but now I'm going to let it go. Now I'm going to create again. I'm like, okay, that didn't work. I got some feedback. I got some info. Now I'm going to keep creating. No, and then probably another one will show up. Be like, boom, showed up. Be like, okay, get some info. Don't really like this current moment. Deal with it. But as soon as the moment's over, be like, okay, now I'm back to my joy. Now I'm back to creating what I want to create and not having that kind of pre-fear to where you like get all worked up because you're afraid you're about to get worked up. Like, ooh, that situation might work me up. So I'm going to get all worked up fearing that situation might happen. So you're actually getting all worked up because you fear you're going to get worked up. As opposed to just realize, like, okay, I might get worked up. I will manage it. I will, effectively deal with it in that moment. And then once that moment's over, I'm back to creating my joy. I'm back to create my amazing life and kind of keep having those little different pieces and being like, oh, anything that comes up that's not creating my joy, I'm going to be able to look through it. I'm going to look through the lie, and it's never going to point down to some inherent, flaw in you that you're broken, because that's the big, big lie. And just know that, it's going to feel like that. It's going to show up like that. Those negative voices are going to tell you that. They're like, oh, you're going to get in here and flaw, and it's going to be permanent. And if anybody else sees it, they're going to say it's permanent. It's going to be an indelible mark on you. Just know they're going to say that. That's what the voice is going to say. That's what they're going to try to trick you with. But you're going to come into that like, no, that's a lie. I'm going deep. I'm going to transcend that. And then your world really magically opens up. And you build that start belief of like, hey, wait a second. There could be gnarly stuff in my past, in my future, and I'll be able to transcend that too. And you start building that belief, building that kind of resilience of like, no, that's lies. And then your world just starts opening up like more and more magical. So I just want to leave that with you. Come in knowing, you're not inherently flawed. Not at all. And that's a lie that's going to get told to you. It will come up. That's going to happen. So when it comes up, when you feel it, be like, oh, Fracker told me I was going to feel that. When I'm digging deep, that's going to come up, and see it as that. Like, oh, I see what you're lying. I'm not going to buy it. I probably will buy it a bit, but then I'm also going to come back and refresh and be like, nope, now I'm not buying it. Now I'm going deep. It's not like, oh, you buy it and then that's yours forever. No, you get infinite number of chances to unravel that lie. Every time you go, you get another, you make, oh, I am it, and you pull yourself out. But you notice another way in which it did it to you, another way in which it did to you. Next time you get in there, and it might overwhelm you, and you're like, oh, I believed it, but you can come back again. But it's never going to make it to where, like, every time you go and look, you're going to unravel a little bit more, to eventually you might be feeling it, but you might be seeing that it's doing it to you. You're like, oh, you're doing it to me. I feel it, but you're doing it to me. I'm seeing you. And eventually, the more and more you see that, then you'll be like, oh, it's doing it to me, and I'm not feeling it. I'm really starting to see your lies. And then you can see it bringing it up, and you'll be like, yeah, no. And it just gives you more information to unravel it, to see the lies. Because once you really start seeing them as lies, they don't even affect you. You don't even believe them. It's just like pop, and you'd be like, oh, that's a lie I won't believe. And it's like pop, nope, sorry. We need to go do a deeper lie because these ones don't affect me. And that's when your life changes. So I'm gonna leave you with that. And until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.